Resuming debate, the honourable member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a tremendous pleasure to rise today to speak about the Budget Implementation Act, which is the first step in implementing Budget 2018, a truly progressive, activist budget which will create even more opportunities for Canadians. This budget is the first which integrates a full gender-based plus analysis to make sure that women in Canada are included in every aspect of the budget. It is significant to me that the budget doesn't just look at women as beneficiaries of government policy, but as full contributors to our national economy. Because we know that we see better outcomes when women and diverse groups of Canadians are included. Budget 2018 is about growth, about increasing the GDP and ensuring that everyone can contribute to their fullest potential. Le Canada est un pays qui s'appuie sur un travail acharné, où les difficultés sont comblées par le travail sans relâche et l'entraide. Le budget vise également à investir dans les gens. Au cours des 2 dernières années, nous avons vu notre économie progresser et se renforcer. Nos investissements fonctionnent. Our plan to invest in Canadians is working. Our current GDP growth is the highest in the G7 at 3.2%, which compares to the second highest, which are Germany and the US, at only 2.4%. We have a low and declining debt to GDP ratio. The proportion of our debt compared to our income is going to be the lowest that we have seen in 40 years. In fact, the International Monetary Fund says that Canada's net debt to GDP ratio is the lowest in the G7, and in fact, it is less than half the G7 average. The IMF also says that Canada's economic policies should go viral. What this means for Canadians is 600,000 new jobs. The unemployment rate in Canada has dropped from 7.1% to 5.7% since we took office. That is the lowest unemployment rate in the last 46 years, in my lifetime, Mr. Speaker. And why are we seeing this growth? Because we are investing in the future. We are making smart investments in infrastructure and innovation. And we are seeing the impact of these investments in my riding of Ottawa West Nepean. $5 million for Nelson House Women's Shelter. LRT Phase 2, which will bring light rail to Algonquin College and all the way to Moody Drive. 42 new affordable housing units for seniors linked to the Carlington Community Health Centre, and $22 million for Algonquin College for a new centre for innovation and entrepreneurship, including Indigenous entrepreneurship. Our Canada Child Benefit has raised 300,000 children out of poverty in our country. In Ottawa West Nepean, over 16,000 children are receiving, on average, each family is getting about $640 a month tax-free. Our new Canada Workers Benefit will lift 70,000 low-income Canadian workers out of poverty. In fact, a worker earning $15,000 a year will receive $500 more and be able to take home more of his or her paycheck. We've invested $5 billion in mental health, $6 billion in home care, on top of a $1.4 billion increase in the Canada Health Transfer, and this budget adds $20 million for autism. And we are supporting seniors, with the increase of the GIS of $967 a year for the poorest seniors, and a new $20 million fund for dementia caregivers, and enhancing the Canada Pension Plan so that in the future the maximum benefit is going to increase from $13,600 a year to $21,000 a year. We have kept our promise on a pension for life for veterans. In fact, a 50-year-old fully disabled veteran will now be receiving $9,000 a month tax-free for the rest of his or her life. We have introduced a national housing strategy that commits $40 billion to cut homelessness in half in our country. 100,000 new housing units, including new family housing units on Michelle Drive in Ottawa West Nepean, and 300,000 units that are going to be repaired or upgraded. And here in the National Capital Region, I am very pleased to note $55 million to the NCC for critical infrastructure and $73 million toward a new national library combined with the Ottawa Public Library. Our growth is because we are working to ensure that we are not leaving out half of the population when it comes to our economic prosperity. I am talking about women. In fact, Budget 2018 is significant in addressing the gender wage gap and enhancing women's workforce participation, which is not only the right thing to do, but it is also good for our economy. We are doing this in a number of ways. Through proactive pay equity legislation based on the report of the Special Committee, which I was very proud to have chaired, and I commend the work of the committee members who are in this House from all parties. 5 weeks of additional use it or lose it parental leave for the second parent, usually the father, which will rebalance the burden of caregiving in our country. $7.5 billion in previous budgets for childcare, which is creating over 40,000 affordable childcare spaces. Changes to EI that allow more flexibility for parents and for caregivers. Supporting women in high-income jobs like in the STEM. $1.4 billion in financing for women entrepreneurs, because we know that only 16% of businesses in Canada are owned by women, and we want that to increase. And almost $20 million in apprenticeship grants for women in the trades. Nous transformons Conditions Féminines Canada à un ministère à part entière. Nous accordons 100 millions de dollars aux organismes de première ligne qui appuient les personnes qui ont survécu à la violence sexiste. Nous prolongerons le projet pilote sur les tribunaux unifiés de la famille afin de faciliter la tâche des personnes qui vivent une séparation ou un divorce pour pouvoir traiter avec un seul système judiciaire. Et nous offrons une assistance juridique pour soutenir ceux qui sont victimes de harcèlement sexuel au travail. I'm also very proud that Budget 2018 is increasing our international assistance envelope by $2 billion to make a reality our international feminist assistance policy. We know that we see more progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals, and we see longer-lasting peace agreements and better outcomes when women are included in the design and implementation and every phase of development projects. Our economic growth is also a result of a successful policy of progressive international trade. Between CETA and the CPTPP, our preferential market access for Canadian goods and services has increased from 31% to 63% of the global market. La diversité est la force du Canada et la pierre fondatrice de notre identité. C'est pourquoi notre gouvernement s'est engagé à investir 23 millions de dollars dans les programmes de multiculturalisme pour trouver de nouvelles façons de lutter contre la discrimination, en mettant l'accent sur le racisme et la discrimination contre les peuples autochtones. Our most important relationship is with that of Indigenous people. Over the past 3 budgets, we have committed over $13 billion for Indigenous peoples, more than double what was in the Kelowna Accord. We are fully implementing Human Rights Tribunal orders regarding services to Indigenous children. Almost 20,000 children are currently receiving care as a result. Boil water advisories have been lifted in 52 communities, with 81 to go, and all of those will be done by 2021. And we are investing in housing, schools, recreational infrastructure, and mental health supports. And we are doing all of this while ensuring fairness in taxation. Canadians in the middle-income bracket are now paying 7% less in income tax, and those in the top 1% are paying more. 97% of small businesses will see a decrease in their taxes. And we are going after overseas tax avoidance through 1,000 offshore audits, 40 criminal investigations, and $44 million in penalties to third-party advisors. We are investing in Canadians. Austerity was tried by the previous government, and it did not work for Canadians. We are growing income and making benefits more inclusive. We are making sure that women and other equity-seeking groups can be full and equal participants in our economy. And we are already seeing the results, with the lowest unemployment rate and the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Langley Aldergrove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened intently to my colleague, and I have a question for her regarding the funding and focus of seniors. She did highlight that the government in the 2016 budget provided increased funding for Guaranteed Income Supplement, GIS, and OAS, In fact, there was support from all parties for that. But that was 2 budgets ago, 2016. Last year, the government did nothing other than to re-announce the 2016 GIS and OAS. And then this year, the second year where there's no new announcements for seniors, they have re-announced and re-announced and re-announced. Now, seniors are seeing that this is happening, that the government is ignoring them, and as senior stakeholders across Canada, Mr. Speaker, are saying this is happening. Seniors are being ignored because there's no minister for seniors. So my question to the member, who I believe does care about seniors, does she think it's fair that seniors are being ignored again, and that the speech that she's provided brings up statements that were made 2 years ago that there's nothing new in the budget for seniors?
Member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for that question. And in fact, this is one of the most important questions in my constituency, because my constituency has a higher proportion of seniors on average than almost anywhere in the country. So thank you for bringing that up. And in fact, there is new money here for seniors. Not only are we putting $20 million into a dementia strategy, but we're also looking at a very successful pilot project that happened in Atlantic Canada, and we're going to be expanding that pilot project. And the money that was mentioned in previous budgets is now starting to flow. We have also in this budget added caregiver benefits for those people who need to stay at home and take some flexibility to look after their aging parents. And we have put in more money into home care, into health care, into things that matter to seniors, including housing. And I'm actually very proud you've given me the opportunity to talk about the Carlington Community Health Centre in my riding, which has all of the health services and other social services that seniors need. And we are building 42 new affordable seniors units for 80 seniors, where you can just go down the elevator and you've got the health clinic and all of the other services there. And I hope that that model is going to be an innovative approach that's going to be spread across the country, because what we are doing is caring for our seniors in Ottawa West Nepean, my riding, and across the country. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague for her speech. And I had the honour to serve on the Special Committee for Pay Equity with her in 2016. Seems like a while ago now. And I know that there was some disappointment that we didn't have a unanimous report, because I felt that none of the witnesses that came forward on that committee felt it would take the government 18 months to implement pay equity legislation. So I was concerned. It's now it's well past 18 months. We're still looking for that implementation of pay equity legislation. And I'm wondering if she can give us any idea when we'll actually see pay equity implemented for those women working in the federal employment sector. Thank you.
Member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you to the honourable member also for your hard work on the Pay Equity Committee. And I do note that the only criticism that was made of that report was that it wasn't going fast enough. So I think that that's a pretty good consensus across parties on the need for pay equity. And to answer her question in short, it will be this year. And the reason I know that is because in the budget, when you read the budget, it actually includes pay equity legislation, proactive, where pay equity will become a human right. And in fact, I was particularly pleased because the budget goes even beyond the 2004 Bilson report and accepts the recommendations of our Special Committee on Pay Equity, that pay equity not only apply to the federal public service and to the federally regulated sector, but also to all federal contractors. And this is about the broadest definition that we can have of pay equity and pay transparency. And I am extremely pleased that we'll be bringing in legislation that, once enacted, is going to cover 80% of Canadians under a pay equity legislation. Thank you.
Afin de la reprise de débat.